On Friday, the 27th of February 2026, Pokemon will be having its 30th year anniversary. 30 years? That is literally double the amount of time I've been on this planet. To celebrate Pokemon's 30th year anniversary in my own style, I will be doing a tier list on my opinion of the best games and the worst games and the ones bang in the middle. So let's go have a look. Right, ladies and gents, here is our tier list. As you can see, we have got every single mainline game starting from Generation 1 all the way up to Pokemon Legends ZA, which is of course their newest release. Now, if we're going to start off this tier list right, you know it's only right we start from Generation 1, which is of course Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red. You know, of course, these were the original games. These were, you know, what brought the whole thing to life near enough. So, you know, I feel like you've got to rank it pretty fair. You know, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red, you got the original starters, you got Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, the originals that everybody still loves today, which I feel as though you've got to rank it fair off that. I think the gameplay, of course, it's an old game, 1999, it's what started the 30th anniversary stuff in the first place. I think you've got to, I do think though, the game itself is in the middle, as in gameplay style, so I feel as though the only fair rank to give it is B. I may get a lot of hate for that, but you know, as a Gen Z myself and someone that didn't grow up on these games like everyone else, I guess it's got to be a bit different for me. Next up, we have the original remakes of Pokemon. Now we've got Pokemon Yellow, which has its own distinctive feature where you start out with Pikachu instead of the normal starters, which, you know, was its own gimmick at the time, which I guess makes it on the same level as the other games. However, in my opinion, I wasn't a big fan of this, you know, because Pikachu, it's its own Pokemon. I wasn't a big fan of the idea personally. So I guess in a sense I've got to put it one lower, maybe even in C. And you know, with the other remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, I guess can both go in B, because they are pretty much the same game, just, you know, with the newer generation of colour in the next console. I guess you could also say the same about Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, which I think I will also be putting in the B category, because I do feel as though, you know, the new style of game, you know, as it was released with the same time as Pokemon Go, I thought, you know, the new gimmick of having to throw the Pokeball yourself, even with the Joy-Con, and you know, all this new stuff that they added, it was, you know, it was new, but it was still the same game pretty much. So I feel as though I've got to stick with B. You know, being unable to evolve Pikachu, being unable to evolve Eevee, I did feel let the game down a little bit, but in all fairness, the graphics of the game were good. You know, there's no real faults with it. It is a very, I'd say, middle of the park style game. Next up, we've got Pokemon Gold and Silver, which a lot of Pokemon fans described as the Kanto DLC. I'm sure if a game's going to be described as a DLC for the first game, it can't be as good. It was released with, you know, a whole wider range of new Pokemon to be caught and collected and to fight with, but the ideology of going back to Kanto and bringing the first game back whilst trying to focus on all this new stuff was not the right move for Game Freak. I feel as though these games, you know, started to let down Pokemon fans a little bit. Of course, they were still good games in my opinion, but the fact that you went back to Kanto and taken away from, you know, the new Johto, I feel as though let the game down a little bit, which is why I'm going to put all 4 games into the C category. Next up on our list is Emerald, Sapphire and Ruby. Now this is where I feel like stuff started to get really good. This is where, you know, the real ideas came in and new legendaries, and we had new gameplay, new styles of stuff, and it was something else. It was the first game they introduced shinies. You know, how many shiny hunters have we got nowadays? You know what I mean? So I do feel as though this does deserve to be higher up. I feel as though it's just something else. It was just, it's a very good game, let's just say that. I feel as though we should be putting these games in the A category for now. We're going to put them in A, personally, because I do feel as though they are better. Next came Pokemon Diamond, Pearl and Platinum. Now, these games are pretty self-explanatory. They were unreal when they released on the DS. It was the first game on the DS, and with its new graphics, and it was new, and it was what the community wanted, especially with Pokemon Platinum. Now, Platinum was different, especially being able to visit the underworld, which is how I feel peaks it over the other two games, which is why I'm going to put Platinum in S and Diamond and Pearl in A. I may get a lot of hate for that, but that's what I believe is the right choice. Next of all on this list, we've got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, or whatever the bloody hell they're called, because they're awful. They're the most irrelevant games in the world. The gameplay's rough. The Pokemon don't even follow behind you properly. It's awful. It's probably the worst remake they've ever made, in my opinion. And I'm just going to stick them straight in D. I don't even want to talk about them too much because they're that bad. Next on our list, we've got Black and White. Now, this is where stuff started getting real. They brought a 3D aspect to the games now. Right, 3D. That's never been seen before in Pokemon. They had the trains. They had bloody trains. What was going on there? It was well past its time. Personally, for me, Black and White were just unreal. I know I've said this about a lot of the games, and I know, I sound like a bit of a broken record. Maybe that's just because I am a massive Pokemon fan, and that's just me. But I just feel as though they've got to be put in A as well. I feel like the middle generations is where the real gameplay was really at, and they're just amazing to me. Honestly, they are fantastic to me. Next on our list is Black 2 and White 2, which I am going to put in the same sort of range. Now, I don't remember much about these two games. I remember Black and White. I don't remember Black 2 and White 2, so I don't remember if the games were too much different, but I remember it was a lot of the same stuff. So, I won't talk about it too much, Black 2 and White 2, but this is where things get very, very interesting. Pokemon X and Y. Now, hear me out here. Pokemon X was my first ever game. I remember picking up my DS. It was my first ever console, my 3DS, that my mum and dad got me for Christmas one year, and it came with Pokemon X. And my God, did my love for Pokemon start there. Pokemon X will always hold a special place in my heart, which is why I feel as though it must go in S. The introduction of Mega Evolution was just unreal. The new fairy type, Pokemon X and Y arguably is are my favourite Pokemon games in the series. And with that being said, we also have Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which in my opinion absolutely overtop the original Sapphire and Ruby, which is why I just feel like they need to be put in S, because if Ruby and Sapphire are in A, they've got to be in S because they were better. I believe they were better. Next on our list, with the pre-Nintendo Switch games, we've got Pokemon Sun and Moon and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now, these games hold one of my favourite Pokemon, which is Lunala. It's got to be one of my favourite legendaries of all time, especially that shiny Blood Moon Lunala. I mean, that was something else when that was released. Personally, these games for me, they brought a new style to the games, getting rid of the gym leaders and introducing things like the trials. But I do think, they were relatively good games. I did think maybe the anime was probably better than the games, but, it is what it is. They had new Pokemon, they have new graphics, new everything. And for that reason, I'm going to keep it in, I'm going to say low A. I feel as though low A is, the place to put these games. I did like these games a lot, but for me, they need to go there. Next on our list is a game that disappointed. It disappointed me, and it disappointed a lot of other people. We have Sword and Shield now. I do think the legendary gimmicks for these games are a bit lazy. It's two of the same Pokemon with a sword and a shield, and that kind of is what it is. It had new styles to the game. It brought the Gigantamax Pokemon, but other than that, the game didn't really have too much. Your Pokemon struggled to follow behind you. The constant wild Pokemon charging at you was annoying, and the game ran really slow. it wasn't the best definition of Pokemon for me, which is why I'm going to put Sword and Shield in C. Next up, we have a new introduction into the mainline games, and that is Pokemon Legends of Arceus. Now, Legends of Arceus was a brand new idea from Game Freak, and it was a very good game. I enjoyed it an awful lot, with its new style of catching Pokemon, and its brand new everything. Like everything else, everything was brand new the newer you got. You know what? I did thoroughly enjoy this game with the new different types of Pokemon, and yeah, I did enjoy it. So I think Arceus needs to go in a solid B. Next up is the newest mainline games, which is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. These were released on the Nintendo Switch, of course, and in my opinion, were quite good. I personally enjoyed playing Pokemon Violet a lot. I had Violet, and the futuristic gimmick I did quite enjoy, with all the Professor Toro stuff and whatnot. So yeah, I didn't mind Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I do think the older games were better, of course, but I guess that's just me. But I can still appreciate the newer games, obviously, which is why I feel as though it's fair to stick Scarlet and Violet in B, because compared to the ones above it, I don't think they can really compare, but I can still appreciate a decent quality of game. I feel as though it was better on the Switch 2 than it was on the Switch 1, because I remember it running really slow on the Switch 1, but when I got my Switch 2 it ran better. So I guess I can give it props for that a little bit. And finally, everyone, on this list we have got Pokemon Legends ZA, which is the newest edition, of course, and it was based in Lumio City, and the style of catching the Pokemon and the different style of battling the Pokemon, which is what really confused me at the start, but eventually I got used to it, and I quite like the idea now. I don't mind it at all, and I'm playing through it again, which is obviously a good sign. I'm really enjoying it. Like the graphics, like Game Freak, you could tell they were lazy with like the wall graphics, but I guess that's not the official gameplay. So you know what, I'm gonna stick it in A. I feel like A is a comfortable category to stick the newest game, and that, ladies and gentlemen, bar these three, is our tier list. Right, if you have all made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I've been a Pokemon fan all my life, and to be able to share my experiences and my opinions on the game with all of you is obviously something that's really special to me. So thank you all for listening. And other than that, don't forget to check out some of my other stuff, some of my shorts where I review games and review other stuff, and have a look at, some of the other videos we've got on this channel, because I feel like you'd enjoy them very much if you like games. But if you did like the video, please do remember to drop a like, comment what you want to see in the future, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.